A Sunday, January 8th, 2017 headline from the Independent newspaper says, "First man in UK to give birth." Now, I've seen these kinds of headlines before. The first one was Thomas Beatie in the United States. He was another quote-unquote man who got pregnant a few years ago. I'm not sure the exact year, maybe 2008, 2007, something like that. I'm not sure. Anyway, the truth is, these are not men. These are women getting pregnant. I have nothing against transsexuals, but a person who is born as one sex cannot biologically turn into the other sex. It is not physically possible to do that. Women can get pregnant because they are born with ovaries, eggs, and all the female reproductive organs. Men cannot get pregnant because they are not born with all the female organs. If I woke up one day and said I want to be a woman, and then I got surgery to turn my penis and testicles into a vagina, I got breast implants, took female hormones, and wore dresses and lipstick, I would still not be able to get pregnant because I do not have ovaries. I was not born with eggs and ovaries and all the female reproductive stuff that people need to get pregnant. It is not physically possible. Likewise, a woman who gets surgery to quote-unquote turn into a man can't produce sperm and cannot impregnate women. They're not born with the right plumbing, with the right machinery to do that. In short, a woman who gets surgery to quote-unquote become a man is still biologically a woman, and vice versa. That is why these so-called men can get pregnant. Because they are not men, they are women. These headlines should read, "Woman gets pregnant." The woman in the UK story, Hayden Cross, is 20 years old. So basically, she's a woman in her prime reproductive years getting pregnant. That's not exactly surprising news. It happens all the time, all over the world. I think a lot of these trans people have issues, and they're mutilating their bodies and damaging their health with unnatural hormones for no reason. But at the end of the day, that's their problem. Everybody is responsible for their own lives. Now, even when I look at these photos of these transsexuals, like Thomas Beatie, for example, a female to male transsexual, so-called he or she looks like a woman. It looks like a woman to me. It looks like a middle-aged lesbian, mannish type lesbian woman. That's what Thomas Beatie looks like. And then when you look at these male to female transsexuals that were born men, they don't look like real women. They still look like males. Like I can't remember the names, but these transsexuals just don't look like the opposite sex. They're just, it's fake. They're not biologically the opposite sex. You can't biologically change your sex. It's just not physically possible. Now, like I said, I have nothing against these people. And then they have children. It may not be healthy for the children to grow up around these types of people, because a lot of these people have issues. Like there's something wrong with them now. Unfortunately, there are actually worse parents than I'm not sure what effect the children would have to, or what effect these people would have on their children when they have these issues with the trans type of stuff. But unfortunately, there are some heterosexual parents, just so-called normal parents, men and women, who really horribly abuse their children, who are just terrible parents. For example, I've heard stories about parents who parents who torture their children to death, parents who don't let their children go to school, and in rich industrialized countries, parents who don't let their kids go to school, torture them, beat them, keep them locked in rooms, or keep them tied up, starve them, murder them, force them to sell drugs, force them to steal. So there's sometimes I'm not sure how badly these transsexual people will screw up their children, but there are some regular heterosexual parents that abuse their children that may be worse than some of these transsexuals. So anyway, I think these people are my point is these transsexuals, I think, are mainly hurting themselves, but I can't pretend that they're real biological, it is not physically possible for them to change their sex, but they're mainly hurting themselves. So it's really their problem, and I'm not angry at them. I think they're just mutilating themselves, and which is their business.